So what's the difference between bushcrafting, prepping, and survival? Well, that's going to be the topic of today's video. Guys, welcome to the Modern Survivalist channel. If you enjoy the content, if you want to learn more about realistic survival and preparedness without going into the panic, the fear-mongering, and the doomsday stuff, well, you're in the right place. This is what I've been doing for a long time. You can learn a lot from the content of the channel. You can definitely learn a lot from the books that I've written, Street Survival Skills, which I really very much recommend for everyone looking to get into survival and preparedness in a realistic, non-fear-mongering manner, as well as surviving the economic collapse based on the experience of, well, just going through that in Argentina back in the day when I did that myself. You have the French version of the book, and you have another book which is called Bugging Out and Relocating, which can be useful for a lot of people wondering about what happened to their country, which is unfortunately the case in many parts of the world. You don't have to move, you don't have to do anything, but the knowledge may help you make better decisions for yourself and your family in terms of, okay, maybe I change cities, maybe I change states, maybe there's some other country in which I will be better off. The case, for example, with what's happening in UK, where people are being actively arrested for their comments online. That does not happen everywhere. It is specifically there in the Western world where you're being arrested for things you think and comments online. Not every country has fallen to that degree. Guys, what is the difference? What are the similarities? Before we go on, I want to thank everyone that has left reviews in Amazon for my books. That's always very much appreciated. Mate, it's what I'm drinking here. Nothing weird going on. Just that. But in terms of bushcrafting, survival, preparedness, I have no axe to grind here. I respect absolutely everyone and their different interests that you may have, and it is true that there are sometimes some similarities, right, in terms of bushcrafting, preppers, and survivalists and whatnot. There are certain similarities. We start here with, well, maybe the grandfather of modern survival, which is is he Sir? Has he been knighted or anything? I don't know. He should. Lofty Wiseman. Maybe the most famous survival book is Lofty Wiseman's SAS Survival Manual, I think it's called. I actually have it myself over there. And yeah, usually when you look at these, this type of content is more related to wilderness survival from the military perspective. The gentleman Lofty Wiseman is a former SAS soldier, or what is it? SAS Special Air Service, right? Her Majesty's Special Air Service. That's where Lofty Wiseman comes from, and he's a very avid outdoorsman. And there's a lot of this translates into the bushcrafting movement, right? Then you have, talking about bushcrafting, you have Ray Mears, a gentleman that has been always very serious about the way in which he approaches bushcrafting and survival in the wild, right, in wilderness. Some of his better work is related to him going to different parts of the world and native people that know how to live within their environments. I've always liked what Ray Mears has done. Maybe it's not the most flashy, most entertaining thing for people that are not as interested in the actual technical details of how things go about, but I've always liked it quite a bit, and I think that's very nice. We already see here some of the ideas of the bushcrafting stuff. Talking about bushcrafting, well, Morris Kaczynski is maybe one of the biggest names in the bushcrafting world. We already now see a little bit more of this aesthetic, and even with Ray Mears, the idea of green, brown, a certain look, more native kind of dressing and clothes and whatnot. His book, Bushcraft, Northern Bushcraft by Morris Kaczynski, that's the name, is one of the best regarded books in the topic. And then you have maybe more of the modern interpretation of bushcrafting, taking to a degree of, again, the clothes, the earth tones, the big knife, and this weird thing going on. I don't know. You know, it starts getting a little bit, but again, I'm not judging anyone. If you enjoy doing bushcrafting stuff, that's fantastic. These skills are very much real. They have been used by humanity for thousands of years and have allowed people to survive, and that's all wonderful and great. There is, though, a difference between this and what Lofty Wiseman covers in terms of the military survival aspect of a downed pilot, a soldier that got lost in the mountain, or someone that got lost in the field and in different environments, surviving in the desert, in the mountain, at sea, right, in the jungle. All of these possible scenarios, even though this is very much real survival, one of the things I notice is, okay, it's survival for things that are at the same time very unlikely to happen to most people. Now, the chance of you surviving in the wild in Alaska because of your Cessna falling down, it could happen. Maybe it's not the most common thing you hear about, but it could. Certainly for a soldier, these are valuable skills, especially if you're more of a special air operative kind of dude. Definitely the case. Bushcrafting, I feel it's a lot more about taking some of those skills to the hobby aspect and entertainment and enjoying and the pleasure of being in nature, which may have lots of benefits that are even more so than preparing to survive if your plane that you don't even fly because you're not a damn pilot is, right? This is maybe something that helps you relieve stress and you enjoy life more, and there's skills and there's walking and navigating and camping, all healthy, good things that you can engage in. And it's more of some guys are a little bit more militaristic about it. Some guy, oh, you're wearing camo. Oh, no, that is not bushcraft. You need to dress up like this if you're a proper bushcrafter. And I'm not one of those. I never felt that way, that's strictly about anything, but I understand that for some people it is, right? So you have the wilderness survival aspect, usually militaristically coming from that side of things, and you have the bushcrafting things, and yeah, it gets into the shelter building, and sometimes there's this idea of, well, survival is about learning how to build shelters. If you go to any survival class, 90% of the time is going to be something about like this, like starting a fire, shelter building, and edible plants, and trapping, and all of these things, again, which are covered by Lofty Wiseman in his books and so on. And then it starts getting into the, okay, this is what you do if there's a disaster or an emergency. And there is where you usually want to, you see more of that in the prepper world. The prepper world is a little bit different from the bushcrafting world in the idea of, we are preparing for emergencies and disasters. There's going to be power outages. There's going to be storms. There's going to be social unrest because of whatever. There's going to be, a pandemic. Whatever the case is, that's where preppers come in. And if you think about it, which I do all of the time, and I'm kind of obsessed with this thing. This is what I've been doing for over 20 years. And not only having gone through stuff personally, like in the case of my experience with the economic collapse in Argentina, but even from a much earlier age, I was always fascinated with the camping and bushcrafting stuff and shelter building and trap building and doing some very stupid, dangerous things like, digging a hole and having some bungee sticks there for people to fall in and putting it and fortunately there was an adult around that said, no, Fernando, you're not a fucking Vietnamese soldier. You're not fighting for the Viet Cong. So no, don't do a deadly trap in... No, that's not the kind of thing. So you go through all of these things, and one of the things you realize is that, getting ready for emergencies and disasters is a good idea. Maybe you have a little bit more of the armed aspect of preparedness, and this is something that, honestly, humbly speaking from where I'm coming, I found this a lot more important and a lot more useful and probably saved my life more than once, rather than any of the bushcraft, survival in nature stuff. Honestly, even when looking at it from the stuff from the SAS books, Lofty Wiseman, or the bushcrafting stuff from the primitive survival skills, no, at least for me, it was a lot more about, have a gun, know how to use it. That's what saved your ass in Argentina when everything starts falling apart. But going back to the idea of the prepper, of stockpiling, of having food, having water, covering the necessities of life, even the toilet paper. This goes to the very real aspect of being prepared for disasters. This goes to some of our grandparents that went through the Civil War in Europe, or World War II, or wherever that was. It was very tragic. These are guys, these are people that were hungry. My grandparents, these are people that were hungry because there was no food. There was no food around. They lived in farms, but it was just the military would just show up and take it. Yeah. Okay, nice. We take that. Do you have any guns? They would hide them. They would hide the guns because the government, whatever that was at that time, would disarm people. Right, so you would hide your guns. You would have a farm, and even with your farm, you often had not a lot to go about, and maybe someone in the city was even more hungry than you were. And it was the case that some of our families, in the side of my wife, they would have to sell whatever gold they would have, like a little piece of jewelry. I told the story before how they would sell links of a golden chain to buy supplies. In my family's case, my grandmother moved to the city, and then her parents would send her food from the countryside. These are all complex things, but yeah, stockpiling for bad times, that is a very common thing. That was how life was always. For thousands of years, the idea of stocking up during the good times, preparing for the winter or for bad times or bad crops, that was a thing. So you have this thing of preparedness, and sometimes it interposes and crosses over with the bushcrafting, and you have this thing of a lot of stuff being sold, a lot of skills, and then you have the crazy survivalist guy, right? You have the guy that's the doomsday prepper, right, crossing over into a hardcore survivalist, preparing Bruce Clayton's book, Kurt Saxon as well. These are guys that were, on the survivalist movement side of things. Maybe this is more the classic. And then you have stuff like this. You have the Survivor man, the Canadian. That's someone. You have it was Bear Grylls. He just happened to be walking in the woods with his cord, with his rope, and a wet piece of wood. And no, it was not the case that a producer came with dirt and went like, okay, stay still for a little bit. Okay, there you go. No, this all happened naturally. And that's maybe a little bit of the criticism, which again, as I said at the start of the video, I respect everyone. If you're into entertainment, I had a wonderful chat with the photography director of the Ethernaut, all right? This is like I Am Legend. It's fiction. It's not real. But this isn't real either. All of this stuff, that was not real. This was all bullshit. It was lights and stuff. And it's a horrible idea to go around jumping into potentially molten lava because you can probably very much die. And then you get into ridiculous stuff like this, right? Survivor in, hot young woman in surviving in bikini, and then you go full-blown stupid and you end up with naked and survival, right? Naked chick surviving in nature. That's what it's really all about, isn't it? Okay, guys, there's always gonna be lessons you can learn from all of these things, and what is better or not, there's no judging here. If you're into bushcrafting, that's awesome. If you want to learn primitive survival skills, that's great. If you enjoy doing this thing, perfect. My personal journey in all of this, I very much started with the idea of, as a kid, this is what I wanted to do. This is what I actually did as a kid, and as a little bit older as well. And then when I had just a little bit more freedom, grabbing a backpack and going to do just this in whatever forest I could find. And it was awesome. And these things are great. Now, how much is it that it helps for surviving for stuff? Well, one of the bigger shockers for me when I ended up writing this book over here, which is the first book I wrote, was that none of these things actually helped me for what was happening in my country as the economy collapsed. When I was I didn't actually end up doing that, but I got a call from the Vice people, the Vice channel. Okay, we're doing like prepper stuff, and I don't know if it was for Doomsday Prepper. They were looking for people survivalists and preppers, right? So you're preparing for what? For the end of you're preparing for what? Like a solar flare, pandemic, peak oil? What? And I wouldn't know. I'm in Argentina and the economy crashed here and this is what happened. Oh, so you're preparing for an economic collapse? No, I'm not preparing for an economic collapse. I'm living life after the economy has collapsed. After our president resigned and 5 different guys went through the office and quit, 5 different presidents in a couple of weeks. That was fun. And the economy is destroyed and our currency is worthless and banks froze our accounts and we cannot get our money in US dollars out of these accounts. And that's the shit we're dealing with. And all of this has sent crime through the roof because everyone has money in their houses and no one trusts banks anymore. And yeah, it sucks, but this is what we're dealing with. This is what I'm doing, right? Oh, okay. We are going to say that you're preparing for an economic collapse, okay? That's okay. And that was fun. Anyway, realizing, and I bought a bunch of books like urban survival stuff. Most of them were not, really all that useful. I ended up writing about all of this stuff, and eventually people told me, you know what, write a book about it. I ended up writing the book, and it went very, very well. Over 1,200 over 1,000 reviews, 1,200 reviews and more and counting. And that's where my journey into the more mature version of survival, the way I see it is, which brings me to what I do. I do modern survivalism. What is that? Well, it's very simple. Modern survivalism, the way I do it, and I haven't invented anything. Mankind has been surviving for hundreds of thousands of years, right? Doing this sort of thing and whatever else it took. It is about the tribe. It is about fighting with other people for resources and survival. And it is very fascinating and interesting, but it boils down to 3 things. I choose to prepare for things that are inevitable, that are going to happen in life. That's going to be growing old. That's going to be having, stuff happen, work related, problems with your income, problems with your job, getting fired, social problems, personal problems, having problems with your family, getting divorced. All of these things are super likely to happen to most people. Many of these are inevitable, having health issues. These are the things you prepare for first. Then you understand that there's things that could happen in life. Natural disasters, emergencies, car accidents, fires, and God knows what else. All of these things can happen. Usually there's going to be a connection between what can happen and where you are. If you live somewhere where there's storms every summer, sure. If you live somewhere where there's earthquakes, as well. If you live anywhere in planet Earth, the economy is kind of changing, not to our advantage, unfortunately. People are poorer than they were before. And this is also part of preparedness, right? And then you have the things that are very unlikely to happen, but still could occur, like a war, Ukrainian folks, a worldwide pandemic, which was not what people thought it would be, even though we ended up losing many of our rights in unbelievable ways, right? These are the things. These are the 3 things you prepare for. The inevitable that will happen, growing old, getting sick, stuff, money, life, family, all of that stuff. The things that are probable, possible, and the ones that are very unlikely, but still within the realm of possibility. That's the way I go about it. And this brings you to making certain decisions. I prioritize different things. Maybe the guy that is worrying about this is not thinking so much about, politics, the economy, news, staying on top of things. How is it that I'm getting screwed this week by those in power that I probably did not even vote for, right? Or you did, I don't know, depends, right? All of this works and helps. But when I see all of this, I think, okay, you know what I would do? I would try really to eat as little of that as possible, because I know that the main cause of premature death is going to be related to cardiovascular diseases, sedentary lifestyle, overeating, and eating a lot of processed foods. I want to sleep well. I want to have a good mattress, the best mattress I can buy. I research those things. I try to have a great partner and wife. In life, I got married to someone that I really very much love and like being around and enjoy life with. That has made life a lot easier for me. I have 3 wonderful kids. Life is awesome. It's not just a coincidence. I thought about all of these things very carefully and try to make the best decisions possible. I make mistakes like everyone. right? But when you start thinking of preparedness and survival in this way, many things that start like going Tetris and go tuck, 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 they align in a very beneficial way for your life. It's not just about survival, it's about quality of life as you live, right? You can survive in a horrible way, a life that no one will envy you for, right? That's not the way I see surviving. I don't want to be alive. I don't want to be 90 years old and have had a shitty life living in some goddamn cave, even if I manage to survive. I wouldn't feel that's success for life the way I see it, okay? And I don't have to. I know that my chances of survival are going to be much better if I adapt to the world as it is, not run away from it, right? And do the best decisions for me and my family. I understand that survival is also going to be about my tribe. My immediate tribe is going to be my wife, my kids, the people that you have around you, your friends, your neighbors. All of these things, the social aspect of preparedness is so important, and people so often just don't get it. You would not believe the amount of people I met. And by the way, these are the guys from Iraqi Vet 88. This man has passed. He knew a lot about firearms. Very interesting fella over there. But there's a lot of people that have fallen for this thing, and I've met them, and they say, oh, I got divorced because my wife could not put up with my shit anymore. My daughter, I don't speak with her because she's a liberal now. She went to college and became a liberal. And I will think, where were you? Where were you bringing up your kids? I have 3 kids. I have a full-grown adult child at this point, and he's not living in some bubble, and he's exposed to the same crap everyone is, and he's not an idiot. So yeah, it's your responsibility. Where were you during those times, during those conversations? Where were you doing the parent stuff, which is very important, maybe more important than learning how to build a cool shelter for YouTube in whatever park they allow you to do so, or piece of land you bought specifically for YouTube, right? That's the way I see it, guys. That's the way I do survival and preparedness. If you like this sort of thing, you have the channel with a ton of information. And again, the books are available in the links below. That's what I consider survival in my version, my vision of things. I have not invented anything. Mankind has been doing this for a long time. I just try to organize it so as to make it a little bit more clear in my own head and maybe transmit that knowledge to you folks as well. See you later. Take care.